short on introductions. You all know me. My name is Nick Rex, first year director of lab with Marissa, and one of 4 directors with Ben and Cindy who couldn't be with us this year, but hopefully we'll see them next year. I have the, privilege, maybe not, being the first one to kick off this idea of what we call a lab talk. So, my lab talk specifically is going to be about teamwork. Next, you could flip to the next slide, please. So, lab is not like my job or my full-time job. What I actually do is I'm a project manager for a commercial HVAC company. So we manufacture and install equipment that keeps giant buildings like this cold or warm, depending on the season. And we also supply and install controls that control this entire building. So somewhere on this campus, there's probably multiple spots that somebody can look on a computer and at any time see and know what's going on in various parts of this building from a temperature standpoint and can control it. So I install the equipment and install the controls for that. I manage the projects that do that. So most of you are lost and like, great, good for you. What makes you qualified to talk about teamwork? How does this have anything to do with it? And really, I have no idea Marissa made me do this. In all seriousness, my success as a project manager is almost 100% based on teamwork. I'm running anywhere from 15 to 30 to 35 projects at any given time you come ask me, in various stages of progress, from just a dream in some owner or a university or somebody's eye to installing, to trying to get finished up and working exactly how they want it to their standards so that we can close the job out and they can be a happy customer. Each project has a different set of contractors. I have electricians, I have carpenters, I have contractors installing ductwork, things like that. So there's multiple players on every job, and they're never the same on every job. Very rarely do I work with the exact same set of contractors on every job. On top of that, I have an internal team within my company that I have to work with, whether it's project assistants who handle billing and submittals and things like that, and documentation type of stuff, to technicians who are doing the actual work in the field, as well as my own bosses, and sometimes other project managers if there's a much larger job. It's multifaceted, so there's multiple of us working on the same job. So I have an internal team to work with as well. So teamwork makes the dream work, right? You know, have any of you heard of that, or am I just gauging myself? Oh, I see some heads nodding, so that's good. That makes me feel a little bit better. But it's true, it really does. Lab is a prime example of that. I mean, Marissa and I don't just like dream this thing up and then just hand everybody. Lower level, you heard me talk about this earlier. We don't just hand this to our staff and say, here you go, this is what you're doing. Like, not a chance. This would not happen if it was just me and Marissa. It's everybody that's on our staff working year-round to make it work. Sometimes you don't like your teammates. I don't get to choose my teammates sometimes. Sometimes I am hired and brought into a team that already exists on a project. I don't get to pick and choose who I'm working with. But if you can successfully work as a team, whether you like each other or not, you can accomplish the goal of the team and be successful. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes I'm just a team member, and other times I'm the team lead. I'm in charge of the entire team and putting that team together and making sure that team understands the goal and works. If you could switch to slide 2. Effective teamwork. I'm going to tell you 2 things about effective teamwork. 1, communication, communication, communication. And 2 is effective teamwork requires defined roles, responsibilities, and deadlines. So what we have up here is an example, which you don't really know, but it's a project schedule for a project I did. Every individual item here is a role, a responsibility, and a timeline of when it needs to be completed, right? If anything goes wrong here, this person's in trouble. Their schedule changes, things change. So we need to constantly be in communication with every single detail that's happening, progress, delays, issues, problems. The whole goal is to try to look ahead and catch problems before they happen so that we can all kind of get together and take care of it before we run into an issue that makes this schedule get worse and makes owners mad at me because we're not getting done in time. But that's the biggest 2 items I can say about that. So let's go beyond my role. You've heard enough about me. How about right now, Leadership Lab, right? You're all here learning and practicing in this lab, in this leadership lab, to become stronger and better leaders, right? Can you go to slide 3, please? So leadership in a team doesn't always come from the team leader. Sometimes, you know, the best team leaders really, they know that they don't have all the answers, and they know that they don't know everything, right? So some you will run across that think and pretend that they know everything and that they have all the answers, but that only leads to unhappy team members, and that leads to yes people, that all they're doing is what they feel is going to make you as the leader what you want versus what might actually be better for the team, and stepping up and doing that. And so that just creates a weaker team and an unsuccessful team. The other thing is, great team leaders, they know what they're good at, but they also know what their team's really good at. So they know each person's area of expertise and passion, but they empower those people to utilize and take ownership of their task, to use their talents and use their passion to help the team. So you don't just give somebody a task and just say, hey, I need X, Y, Z, and it needs to be A, B, C, you know, and then give it to them, and they put it together, and they spit it back out to you, and you're like, great, that's exactly what I thought it was supposed to be. Nobody's excited about getting that task to do that, right? So the idea is you gotta give them a vision or a goal, but it doesn't need to be extremely defined, right? And you let them use their talents and their skills to make it even better than what you probably could have ever even imagined. If you go to the next slide. So here's one example of this, right? So for those that don't know, this logo over here was created by Nathan Raymer back there running the slideshow. He's a graphic designer and very good by trade, and he's also a very extremely talented artist. We were in Vegas last year for what we called Home Base of Virtual Lab 2021 at the Navalis household, and we hashed out that week what our theme verse was going to be and what our theme was going to be, and then we started trying to figure out what we want the logo to look like. And this was, I think, like version 2, version 3 of just random pictures of them two over here posing, my wife Mandy and Marissa, just posing and trying to figure out what we wanted. We gave them an idea, and we said, this is what we're thinking, something about hands, God's hands over somebody, kind of in strife, head down type of thing, and this is what we get, right? We didn't say, hey, we want an O that covers both the not and the alone and with dots and all this good. We didn't do that. We said, here's our vision, go and do it. And then he brings it back with some sketches and things like that. And we go, ooh, we don't actually like our original idea, so let's kind of change it a little bit. Lisa would like this one, Lisa Powell. Sometimes you have to pivot, and you go a little different direction from what you originally started. We came into it with that idea, and somehow we ended up with the hands actually underneath, right? So we went through the process, but we empowered Nathan to do what he does best and present to us something we could have never imagined or come up with, and that's what we get to, right? So you can go to slide 5. Teamwork also requires us as team members to be nimble, to be flexible, to, whether it's new ideas, like I said, we reprioritizing, and sometimes pivoting, Lisa. There you go. So you can plan something out and think you know how it's going to go with this group and this project and your team months and months in advance, and once you start going, it might take a total turn, and you go, oh, this is way better than what I even thought it was going to be. We got to go this way. Like I said in the example, we started at the top and we ended up with hands on the bottom. We went through a process where we just kept turning and making a turn. You got to be flexible. You got to understand that. The other flexibility that you need to have is you could have someone show up with some strengths you didn't know about initially, and you go, okay, hold on, let's take them off of that and move them here because their strengths are better for this, which again will just make our team that much stronger and that much better, right? And in the other tone, you might see a deficiency somewhere that you didn't expect. You know, you go into it with, I've got these team members lined up, it's going to be great, and then as you're going through, you're like, okay, now we have a spot that we didn't anticipate, but we need somebody there. And so you need to be able to adjust and pivot and move somebody into that role, or take that role for yourself to make sure that the entire team is a strong team with the same recognized goals. So the key is to understand team's goals, not your own goals, the team's goals, right? So up here, you might have an extremely strong passion or a really strong talent for this green area of the team, right? And there might also be 3 other team members that are as strong as you or maybe a little bit weaker, but still very strong at the team. But then there might only be one person holding up that A. Now, A isn't your favorite thing to do. It's not the most glorious thing to do, but you have the talent to do that. Nobody else over at this T that's overcrowded does. So that might require you to take a step back as a team member or a team leader even and say, hey, this isn't my forte, but nobody else can do it. I should probably step up because then the whole team is stronger, right? So you have to recognize the team goals, not just your personal goals of, I want to stay here. Because like Marissa said a few times this week, is the team's successes are the entire team's successes, not just one person's. But the team's failures are also the team's failures. So if you fail to recognize that that has to happen, that's not just a failure by you as a leader or as a member to not step up and recognize that you need to do that, but now you've created a failure for the entire team. So the whole point of it is, the biggest thing with teamwork that you need to understand is that it is all about the team's goals and not your personal goals and feelings. And a lot of the hardest part with a lot of really strong leaders, which you'll find as you keep going through leadership lab, that you will run into a lot of clashing personalities and everybody likes to be the boss or everybody thinks they know the best way, but you sometimes have to understand that you need to take a step back and realize we have a goal as a team and we need to achieve that goal. What's the best way to do that? Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. I think these things usually end. Thank you for coming. My name is Nick Rex, and that was my lab talk.